Good evening, everybody. We're going to get the meeting started tonight. I'd like to call the meeting to order for this study session portion of the council meeting for Monday, August 7th, 2023. And for the record, we're actually
I'm still having it edited.
Again, I welcome all of you tonight, and I want to remind everyone this is a regular council meeting for the city's rules for decorum. All speakers, members of the audience, and council members are to conduct
Hopefully we can
themselves
get together
with
soon.
decorum to not engage in conduct that interrupts the orderly conduct of the study session. And the study session agenda, Mr. Gomer. Well, we have to do roll call. Let's do roll call. That would probably be better.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Johnson? Here. Councilmember Crosby is en route. Back there. He'll be here shortly.
Here.
Councilmember Kashigita is on vacation. Mayor Pro Tem Lau? Here. Mayor Hepburn?
Here. Tonight, the City Council will be in a study session pertaining to Christmas morning and holiday events. This is an opportunity to review the tradition of the Christmas morning event, understand the logistics of the successful event, and provide community input into the city's celebration of the holiday season for 2023. Mr. City Manager, please conduct this study session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. This is our first format of using this time as a study session. As folks know, council adopted an ordinance and then approved a resolution that sets the time, so we'll use the 5:30 sessions for either a closed session, or if there's a subject matter that we want to get a little bit more in depth into and talk about and have discussion, knowing that there's no action to be taken by the council, but we can receive direction as to where to go. These study sessions. So tonight is about the Christmas morning event and our holiday events in general. And I would like to bring up first, Yvonne, are you the first person? No, it is Robert Russell with our fire department to give a little history of the Christmas morning event. This is going to be a tag team, so I'll go Robert, and then I'll go Yvonne, and then I'll go Chief Nig, and then I'll finish up.
Good evening, DC Russell.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. So I'm going to start this evening's presentation by just providing a little background context in our Christmas tradition and how we got to be where we are today. So as I'm sure everybody here is well aware that nearly 100 years ago in 1925, the Laverne Volunteer Fire Department started a tradition of providing treats to members of the community. And the original intent was to provide fruit, nuts, things like that to members of the community that may have not had something extra on Christmas. As the city grew and evolved with the volunteer fire department, it became a tradition whereas the department on Christmas morning would go out in what was then essentially a square-mile township and hand out candy, treats, and again, fruit to members of the community. During my tenure with the department, which started back in the 1990s, we evolved to 5 routes. Which took approximately 60 to 70 volunteers on Christmas morning to facilitate the delivery of approximately 11,000 treat bags to the members of the community. We've eventually evolved up to 6 routes just to spread that workload out a little bit more evenly and to prevent the routes from becoming too long and too cumbersome, which has gotten us to the point where we are today. So last couple of years, it's transitioned from a purely fire department driven event to more of a volunteer based. And we'll talk a little bit about what our plan is to try and make this a sustainable and meaningful event for the community.
Director Duran.
Next slide, please. So tonight I'm here to present a new tradition for the Laverne community. Laverne Holiday Nights will bring us back to the original purpose of Christmas morning, which is giving back to the community. Through the course of 5 evenings, through each council district, Santa and his friends will journey through the city and arrive at a local park decorated for the holidays in northern and southern Laverne. Here, the community will have an opportunity to donate to the Spark of Love toy drive or to a local charity benefiting those in need, which was the original purpose of Christmas morning. Each night will include a fun, interactive theme. One of them will be the North Pole. The other one will be Homeville, not Whoville because of copyrights. Santa's Workshop, Winter Wonderland, and Candy Cane Lane. The community would be invited to all 5 events. It's not just your district. If you miss one, you're more than welcome to come to the other. But each night will be decorated in theme, and lights in different stations. He is going to be doing reindeer food. We're going to have our preschool program doing crafts, pictures, and treat bags as well at each location. There will also be photo opportunities with Santa and friends. And we believe this new event, this new improved event, will be a greater impact to the community by having it at all these various locations, not just one park, not just one area, but different parts of the city. The other thing with this new event, it's definitely going to be less of a liability to the community, as residents will no longer run across the street for treat bags, and we wouldn't have volunteers jumping off vehicles onto the street while in motion. We've had many close calls in the years, even at one point, and Robert can attest to this, an individual's hair was run over through the truck. She was okay, but there's been many close calls. The recruitment of 60 volunteers will no longer be necessary, as we have a committed group of staff and volunteers, the RSVPs insert on each of those days. Just a little bit of history with volunteers in previous years. Recruitment was rather difficult. In 2021, we had 46 registered volunteers and only 30 arrived. With those 30, many left mid-route without even notifying staff. They were just going off route. They were either tired or done. They wanted to go back home to their families and didn't want to continue walking, and they left. That same year, one city employee who wasn't even there to give out treat bags was left by himself in the rain and did not return until 3:30 p.m. that day. In 2022, we had 73 registered volunteers, but only 50 arrived to the community center. And only because someone made a generous donation to the local high school athletics team for the commitment of volunteers. That was the only reason why we had about 20 of those were from the high school out of the 50 last year. So with this new and improved event, our police and fire departments, as well as others listed, have committed to this improved holiday tradition. This new tradition would allow staff the opportunity to spend time with their family and loved ones.
Thank you, Director Durant. Chief Nate.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. So it's not lost on me the fact that most of the tradition and the history behind this event started with the fire department and carried on for several decades thereafter. As a result, I wanted to provide a little bit more of the crude reality to the operational impact that it has specifically on the fire department, and why there's really no scenario that we could continue it on with just the fire department, but ultimately because of those ties, much of the focus does then fall on the fire department, making sure that we have fire apparatus in each one of the routes, and a part of as much of each of the parades as we can possibly be target. It's important the community understands that the fire department is a lot more than just Christmas. The LVFD has been a community stable for 115 years, and as a result of that, the Laverne Firefighters Association, which is the body of our fire department, all of our personnel and men and women of the department, they contribute to a number of different events throughout the year to give back to the community, if you will, and that includes pancake breakfast, to several charitable events where they give back to the Boys and Girls Clubs, the girls softball team. They donate thousands of dollars to several other charity events, as well as Fill the Food, etc. Beyond that, we've had a dramatic increase in responsibility over the decades. As you all know, the fire department roughly 100 years ago was tasked with a lot less than they're tasked with today, that we are tasked with today. And that's everything from heavy rescue calls to community prevention, early mitigation measures, to structure fires, to metaclades, just exponentially busier than we were ever before in the past, and that certainly includes on Christmas Day. Fire season, as everybody knows, extends well through the holiday months. Frankly, personally, I've even been on a wildfire through the Christmas time. I almost missed my wedding because I was on a wildfire during Christmas time. So when we have personnel that are deployed out well up and down the state, it's even harder for us to commit personnel and resources to these types of events. As you can see, we've had a continual increase in calls for service over the last few fiscal years, even upwards of close to 700-800 calls this last fiscal year, which is a dramatic increase for us. And as a 3-station department, it's very, very important that we focus primarily on the response needs of the community. Finally, I want to point out what it takes to operate the equipment to sustain these routes. With 6 different routes in the community, we have 6 reserve apparatus that we can even commit to this type of an event moving forward. And that's not even taking into account if something's mechanically down or if we've got something deployed out there. At a minimum, it takes 6 personnel from the fire department to contribute to this event outside of volunteers. When I first came to the city and learned about the parade, I certainly appreciated it for its excellence over the years, over the decades, and the tradition. Fire service is all about tradition. Ultimately, my first thought was operationally, how in the world are we sustaining this? And as I came to learn how the fire department took this on over the years, it was clear to me that people were essentially ordered to come in on Christmas Day and serve in this role. And I can tell you as fire chief now, there's no scenario that I'm going to order people to come in on their days off with their families. So we've had a few volunteers over the years, and certainly we have our 3rd station now that we can commit to the event. However, that does provide a very minor impact to the community at the time. So it's important to realize what the crude reality is of keeping up with the way that we've been doing business every Christmas morning. Moving forward to the specific plan that Yvonne presented, having a once-a-day, 1 parade route is far more sustainable and easily contributed to by our personnel, even including myself, because I'll certainly be there to drive every one of those days as well.
So Mayor, members of council, and the public, I just want to kind of wrap things up. So thank you, Chief Nick, Chief Russell, and Yvonne, so Director Duran. What we want to emphasize is that Christmas Day is for family, and so no one in the meetings that we've had about this and potential, alternative events or changes to the current event, they all understand that greatly. When I was going through the city manager interviews and the department head interview panel, this was brought up. And so I knew at that time that this was something serious to look at and all that. I participated this last Christmas morning event. I got there about 6 o'clock, a little bit before, and was able to actually get back home because it was not part of the festivities by 7:30. So I consider myself fortunate. Some of the issues is that, there has been adjustments over the year. We've heard about some of the unsustainability portions of this. And just as the event has gone on over the years, there's been changes to the organizational structure. It has been passed on primarily from fire to community services and anybody else who can help, and to volunteers. It's a physically demanding event for those volunteers, and I can understand why those volunteers may, after 2 or 3 hours, decide I'd rather be at home with their family doing things, because there are people, so there's staff that are on the job for almost 12 hours because they get there early and they are there till the end. Some of the volunteers, based on these routes, could go from 4 hours to 7 hours. And so it's understood why we may lose some. And so it's that consistency that we were looking at in understanding what our limits were. So that's where those alternative proposals came in for the 5 nights. But truly, in looking at an organization, work with our employees, Christmas is for families. And we want to make sure, especially, with younger members of staff coming in, that they spend their time. I can personally say that, my daughters are now 17, 18, and 21, and so some of them were awake when I got home at 7:30, but I know when they were younger, I was up building tricycles and then getting up really early in the morning to spend Christmas with them, and I don't want to deny that to my staff. But we are here to have discussion from the community, to hear from you all. I totally understand this is a long-standing tradition, and that is hard to, upend or change. And I'm talking to some of the staff here who have grown up in the community and others who have grown up in the community, and how it's served to get them to understand the community better, or it was the signal to go out and to, ride their new bikes, or, show off their new toys to their friends when the sirens went by and all that stuff. We still want that as a community to happen, but we want everybody to enjoy their Christmas Day. So with that, Mr. Mayor, turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Domer, and thank you, E.C. Russell, Director Verne, and Chief Nick. Yeah, this is one of those things where we really want to hear from the public, because, we've all been involved with this. I know Councilmember Johnson has lived here his whole life, so he's used to this, the fire truck and the wonderful things that go on, and the candy, and then packing the candy back in the time when we could actually pack candy. And we really want to hear from you guys, because we don't want to change something that's so dear to everyone's heart, especially the kids and stuff, but at the end of the day, we do need to think about our staff. We do need to think about our residents as far as, but mostly our staff and what the resources we have. So it's really up to you guys to say, hey, let's get some suggestions here, because as Ms. Duran said, she's, the problem is that people that say they're going to be there and then they don't show up, and that's been multiple times. Ever since I've been on council, I only missed one because we had a grandchild born a few days before Christmas. So, but it was always a problem. You would have a fire truck, and I ran that a couple years. That was it for me. 2 years was enough, because it's you're running, and the dangerous part about it, but also the fact that some of the routes don't finish for 6 to 8 hours. It's a lot. And I'm not poo-pooing it. I think it's a wonderful tradition. I think it's very important that our communities hold on to the traditions, but maybe it's time to morph it and see if we can morph it and maybe find something that works just as well, that even maybe gets more people involved. So, Councilmember Johnson.
Well, like you said, Tim.
Why is it yours?
It used to be this one, and then you moved there, now it's that one.
Yeah, for my 62 years coming up, this has been a tremendous tradition. My grandfather, who was the fire chief for those years, it was a really big deal for him, and it was a really big deal that all of the volunteers showed up to participate in this. And as a child, it was not that fun to have your dad gone, all Christmas morning. We wouldn't see him until later in the evening. So there are a lot of emotions involved with this event. There are years when my children were infants, and we'd run up to the fire truck and give them something special so they could hand it off to our children. And it's amazing, it's like Mayberry. It's a community that just stands out. So I really enjoy the fact that we've had it for so many years. I can understand the logistics and the problems with continuing the way we've done it in the past. I tend to think that this is a good alternative, but again, we do want to hear from you. I sure don't want to get rid of everything about Christmas. The other thing that I really enjoy Christmas morning is when the truck would go by. That's when all the neighbors are out, and we hand out gifts to our neighbors. So, that will be a little bit different if this goes through as far as a change. But change is, I think, inevitable. Rick?
Well, I think I want to hear from the public, but yes, there we go, sorry, microphone. I've been doing this for the last 4 years. The first 2 I was running, and 9 miles in 7 hours might think not far in that time, but it is when you don't exercise. My youngest daughter's been there with me in the last 2 years. My whole family's been there, but is a big difference. And you know, when we first started talking about this, I'm gonna tell you, Yvonne didn't like me. And the staff didn't like me, because I'm like, heck no. But I've just been hearing it, and I've heard a little bit from residents, and want to hear from more residents, but of just different understandings, and then looked around about other cities. I remember my first experience this was about 30 years ago. My father and I, on every Christmas morning, when it was just me left in the house, we'd go play golf early Christmas morning. And we'd always come up to Marshall Canyon, and you would hear the fire trucks going around. That was my first experience going, what the heck is that? And then going out and watching it and seeing it. COVID year, when we weren't allowed to hand out things, but we just got to go through, you could see families. That's the one thing that brought families and communities back together again. This is the one event that really brings the entire city involved, where the car shows down the downtown area and everybody goes down there. But this one event brings everybody together on their street, and it brings the city to the people. So I want to make sure that we're still doing that, making sure that every part is being touched as well. And then what you said, Councilmember Johnson, was the biggest joy on myself is that what you get from is after you hit a go street and you're leaving that is when you see everybody coming out as a community on that block. And I thought my block was the different one because that's what we always did and that happened. But it's everywhere where everyone comes out and hugs each other, tells everybody Merry Christmas, and hands gifts to each other. That is something that you don't see anywhere. And so that is what this event brings about to us.
Mayor Pro Tem Lau.
So I think many of you know that I moved here after I went to college at the University of Laverne because I thought, what a cute little city, what an amazing little city. But I didn't know even in college that Santa came to every house. So when I first moved in that first Christmas, I was like, what is that? What is happening? And it became a tradition for a group of my friends that had all similarly moved to Laverne at the same time to congregate at one of our houses. And we would have coffee with something, coffee, or we would make orange,
Beverage.
right, orange juice, but we would, wave at the fire trucks as they came by. We made cookies and we would give them to the firefighters and the volunteers who were coming by. And it was a fun little tradition before everybody sort of broke off to go see families. And so it was the big thing, I think, for me, being able to tell other people, hey, this is the cool thing that happens in our city. I will say my route starts at 7 in the morning. So like my alarm is set for like 6:45, so I have enough time to jump out of bed, throw on a sweatshirt, grab the cookies and head out the door before, I miss it. And it's been really, really fun. But I think, I would like to know what could we do to change some things, not because I want to get rid of the tradition, not because I don't think it's fun, but I think that the impact on our staff has been tremendous. I think about, if you were asked or basically told that you had to work all day and not see your family, not see your kids. I don't have kids, but I would be not happy if I missed seeing my nephews open presents on Christmas morning. That would not make me happy. It would not make my parents happy for me not to be there. I think also the older I get, I realize how limited my time is with my parents, and I couldn't imagine for someone to be in that same position and not be able to spend time with their families the way they want to. So, totally on the same boat in the same boat as everyone else. I love the tradition. I love the intent of the tradition, and I don't want us to get so stuck in the structure of how it happened before that we can't see how we can make it different and or better and possibly more inclusive. Because I will say this: although I had neighbors that would also come out and groggily in their bathrobes, wave and take pictures and everything, there were also people that just were like, it's 7 o'clock, I'm not getting up. And so I wonder too, how many people will get missed, but if you have an opportunity potentially 5 times in the month of December to go to something, to get to actually stop and take a picture with Santa, or to actually get to interact much more meaningfully with your neighbors, And I love the idea of bringing back that community service aspect of it. Here's a place where we can all donate food, donate toys, really build that sense of community and go back to the tradition of how do we give back? What is Christmas really about? Is it the 5 minutes that you see Santa coming down the street, or is it about the spirit of giving and being cognizant of your fellow man? So I would love to hear from all of you and see what your thoughts are now that you've seen the presentation, heard from multiple people, and have your own experiences that you want to share as well.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lau and Council. I'd like to open up public comment now. Please, if you'd like to come up, just tell your name, any ideas, any questions, or for staff who wish to come up. Ms. Beauchamp?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to thank the council and the city manager for asking for suggestions from the city. This is something refreshing because that's not normally the case. So I really appreciate that, and I don't mean that in a sarcastic manner, even though it may sound that way. I really do appreciate that. I think it builds a much better rapport with the residents. Should there be a change, that you ask for their input, and if they fail to provide it, then they can't complain about what has been done. So thank you. My suggestion would be if Councilmember Cash, and unfortunately he's not here, could facilitate something with the Army Reservists or some military reservist group to help provide volunteers if high school kids or city residents are not willing to do so. I understand that people want to be with their families, but part of what makes our city great is giving to your neighbor. And I know that's a very important holiday. Maybe for some it's a religious holiday, but you have to be able to willing to give up a little bit of what you have and what you find great about our city to help everybody else to appreciate what it is that you love about our city. So, and then on behalf of the firefighters, they know they have to work holidays. They work 12 or 15 days a month, 24-hour shifts, but they know that going in ahead of time. So I get it, you have your rotation, you don't want to have to call them in on their day off, but if there was a major natural disaster, like we had that windstorm in January 21, many of them got called in, Public Works got called in. So there are things that take place in our city unexpectedly, and staff is called in. So I think going in, they know that ahead of time. So I kind of feel like that's a moot point because it's not like you accepted this job and not knew that ahead of time. So, but I think ultimately it's something that we need to keep. It is a tradition. It is one of the things that people talk about for days afterwards. Like, it was so great. Like last year, and I can attest to Mr. Crosby's participation. He came down my street and delivered my package and gave me a hug and wished me Merry Christmas, and it was very nice. It was really nice to see that. So it's not just you up here on the dais and us residents, like us versus them kind of thing. I mean, he was kind of just like one of us, and I did appreciate that. So thank you.
I was Santa, I didn't have to run.
Thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. Anyone else? Ms. Berry? Don't be shy, guys, please. Who wants suggestions?
Hi. I don't want to touch it because I've had bad luck with that. So it's a little off the cuff, but there's just a lot of thoughts have been going through my head. Yes, we think about other cities, but Laverne is different. Laverne is a city that other cities envy. Laverne is different. We have the 4th of July in a big way that other cities much bigger than us don't. We have our friends of the 4th of July. Can we have some friends for Christmas Day? Can we use, I'm thinking we have so many people that feel so strongly about this. I mean, even Mr. Crosby's like, heck no, not gonna do that. There's a lot of people that would be really, really upset. Their kids plan on it, their families plan on it. My daughter's disabled, she lives in a group home, she's 31 years old, and she comes every Christmas Eve so she can spend the night and be there, because we have the 7 o'clock also, and I get up with her. But I know that the volunteers were really shoddy in the last couple of years, and some of them just didn't, they volunteered with a little too little heart. But we also had COVID. And I think COVID, if we were looking at all the years together, that killed a lot of things, and I would hate to see COVID kill this. I would really hate to see that without giving it more time to do something big. I think if families could create a kind of a new tradition of being those volunteers, their kids are no longer the little ones, then they can go out and do this together. I think there would be a lot of volunteers that would really get into it. I loved going to do those bags of candy. And my last memory with my dad related to Christmas was taking him to the fire station in his wheelchair. There were a lot of people there, and it was a big deal. I would like to see that continue, and I would like to see maybe even, 7 hours is a long time. Maybe we'll have enough volunteers to even kind of jump ships and help each other out. I would like to see Laverne stay one big unified Laverne versus breaking it into 5 little pieces. We're already kind of divided by that whole district idea, and there's only a few things that are like everybody together. So I'd like to see if we could get a Friends of Christmas, get more people involved. Thank you again. I will piggyback what Janita said. Having this opportunity before, okay, now in 3 minutes we're doing a vote, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think before doing something big like this, you probably would want to do a lot more communication. A lot more. Because there's people here tonight that didn't even see that little presentation on the links that were sent here and there. So we're just a little bitty piece of 30-something thousand people. But thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Anyone else? Kathy?
There we go. So I have to wear 2 hats tonight because Sherry Best did want to make comments, but she had to have a procedure, so she's not able to be here tonight. So I'm going to start with hers, and then I will do mine. Mine are a little briefer than hers. So this is from Sherry. It has come to my attention that there will be a discussion on May 7th regarding Laverne's traditional Christmas Day celebration. For many years, members of the city fire department have traveled throughout Laverne with Santa Claus on a vintage fire truck, waving to Laverne residents and giving out candy to children. This event is much anticipated and appreciated, but it is time to reconsider this tradition and create a new way to celebrate. My understanding is that members of Laverne's fire department participated in this event but stopped participating in 2019. Lacking sufficient fire department members to perform this task, in 2019, city staff members were asked to replace the fire department members. Replacement of fire department members with city staff solidified into the new normal, with more than 30 city staff members and additional volunteers taking over the duties of distributing candy to waiting children in 2023. There were several unfortunate consequences of this change to this tradition. In general, as follows: city staff members had to relinquish their entire Christmas day with their own families on a national holiday. Some of these staff members have their own young children who miss their parents on Christmas Day. City staff members already relinquished the 4th of July to the needs of residents. City staff members are not essential to protect Laverne's residents, as are members of the police and fire departments. As such, they had no expectation to serve the city residents on Christmas Day when initially employed. There is a question of the legality of requiring service of city staff members on Christmas Day. The tradition of the fire engine and Santa and distribution of toys and gifts was imposed on city staff and then became a permanent expectation. It is time to revisit this dynamic. For some, Christmas is a sacred holiday and is observed in formal ways. Some attend Christmas Eve church-based services late in the evening. Others attend services on Christmas Day. Religiously observant staff are made to relinquish this practice and attend to city duties. Public employers have increasingly recognized the inappropriateness of requiring such duties from observant members of specific faiths or mitigating against practitioners of such faiths when they exercise their rights to decline to serve. As Laverne has grown, so has its population and the potential for waiting children to miss the opportunity to have a meaningful interaction with Santa Claus. For some children and other residents of Laverne, this tradition has devolved into a swift race along one street instead of an enjoyable, meaningful event. There's also the possibility that some streets will be missed altogether with disappointment as a result. It is in my nature to view every challenge as an opportunity for more constructive action. I have thought for some time about how to maintain a tradition that is joyous without undue burden to a few at the expense of many. Frequently, when we think in fresh ways and apportion the burden more evenly, a solution appears that has unintended positive consequences. My suggestions are as follows. Schedule the fire truck visit to a day other than Christmas. I suggest a weekend day, such as a Saturday before Christmas. Another option would be to schedule several visits on late afternoons or weeknights. Reduce the burden to drivers and residents by scheduling the truck to appear for several hours in the neighborhood with route termination at a city park in that district. Residents could wait for the truck to drive by their house or bring their children to the park to visit Santa. After time in each district, the truck would go to the next district location. Visits to districts on different days would reduce the staffing burden on any given day. Parents who are interested in seeing the truck and visiting with Santa would take their children to the park. After all, parents take their children to see Santa at Monera Square and on a day other than Christmas. This could turn into a fun family ritual. Require city council meetings to be present at the park aligned with the district. This way the city council members are directly participatory. Give up a few hours of their time and connect with their district constituents. City council members should be instrumental in recruiting resident constituents to help with candy and toy distribution, and maybe even decorating that part of the park where the fire truck stops. A schedule can be developed for fire truck locations and stops. The schedule will be posted on the city calendar. As president of the Laverne Historical Society, no one appreciates tradition more than I. However, we must realize that Laverne has grown to a population size of over 32,000, and although limited geographically, is still much larger than it was when this tradition began. It is possible to preserve the spirit of this tradition without placing an excessive burden on city staff members who value their family time as much as anyone else. Making this change would not take Santa away from children, as some may claim, but rather this new approach will create an additional opportunity to build community in Laverne as people come together, decorate their park space, and eagerly greet Santa on his visit through their neighborhood. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, and that's Sherry Hess. So here's from me, Kathy Kalusek, 2242 3rd Street. I am a lifelong 56-year resident of Laverne, and I have very fond memories of the Christmas morning tradition. But as the city has grown and the dynamics of the fire department have changed, the logistics of pulling off this type of event have become next to impossible. The last 2 years, the Santa truck sped down my street so quickly that one of my neighbors asked if Santa was even on the truck, and they didn't stop even to give my neighbor's daughter a goodie bag. I don't even think they stopped at the stop sign at the end of our block. I had no idea that since 2019, when the fire department stopped taking the lead on this event, our city employees were being forced to give up their Christmas day with no compensation, simply to keep up the old tradition of getting a brief glimpse of Santa and a bag of stuff that people may or may not eat. There's a name for an employer that would require this of their employees. It's Ebenezer Scrooge. In the past, I have volunteered to help stuff the goodie bag, but I've never volunteered for Christmas Day because I enjoy the day with my family and I go to church. If I'm not willing to give up my Christmas Day for this tradition, why would I want to burden others with doing it? Traditions change and evolve. I've read the proposal that the city staff is presenting, and I think it's a far better and more meaningful option. And I hope that the city council and our community will work with our employees to come up with a solution that everyone can enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anna?
Good evening. Okay, a few things. I am not happy about dividing the city into districts for this. We already got a bad taste in our mouth about the districts. And everyone up here said, don't worry, we'll go districts, but we'll always be one city. So dividing it up into districts is just, I don't know, not a good time yet. We haven't had enough time to adjust to this. Plus, I live in an HOA, which is divided, which shouldn't be, it's illegal. So half my HOA is gonna go one way, the next HOA is, these are my neighbors. We're all up there in our pajamas every morning when the fire truck comes. You know, we're not dressed, we go outside in our pajamas, and now we're gonna divide our HOA again. Not happy about that. Second of all, I'm wondering how many people are not gonna know about this changing come December. You're gonna have a riot in here. You better make sure the city understands that you're gonna change this. They're not gonna be happy, a lot of people. And somebody, Kathy said something, but I don't think this is true. Sorry, Kathy. I don't think that you can have employees working without compensation. That's totally illegal. So I don't know where that comes from. You can't have employees working without paying them. And let's see what else. The tradition, I've been here 36 years with my kids, doing it and everything. I'd like to know, I really like to know a name. Who decided to do this? Seriously, who decided to do this? We got elections coming up. I want names of who decided to do this. Probably I won't get a name, but I'll write the city manager and ask who the name is. Because this is something that has to be thought out. I understand that we have the volunteers, we used to have the fire department, it's changed. All the stuff probably could be worked out, probably. But you're gonna need a lot more people in here to give better suggestions than I can. Okay? Because I got a feeling that come December, we're gonna have a problem. Because it's just like the gun thing. We went through the gun thing, nobody knew about it, and then everybody started calling in and you had to have another meeting about it. Because people just didn't know. It's not advertised enough. This is a big thing. This is a big thing. And I don't know what my kids are gone, my grandkids are up in Idaho. So, to me, it's not as big as it used to be. But, there's a lot of people in Laverne, it's a big thing to them. And I think you better put more advertisements out there and getting more meetings in here before you do anything. It's gonna be a nightmare. That's it.
Thank you, Anna. Mr. Galadon, and then you're next.
Thank you. I lived in the city for about 30 years and my family has enjoyed the tradition. I think tradition's super important, whether it's a personal tradition you have with your family at home or when you buy into a city and their traditions. And I love Laverne. I love our traditions. I think that we should fight for everything that we are that's unique of other cities. That said, I noticed in looking at the audience here that the target consumer is not in here. And to some of the comments from the other speakers, I'd like to know, has anybody gone to schools and asked them what they think about this decision? Will the parents of those children who won't be seeing Santa on Christmas morning, who have bought into the traditions of Laverne, are they willing to step up and participate in this? I didn't know that you guys were that bad off for volunteers. And I come to these city council meetings pretty regularly. I think you all know that. So I've never heard this dire need for volunteers or else. So I think in the spirit of maintaining the tradition, finding a different way to make the tradition we have, whether or not with the fire department exclusively on the hook for their team and the city staff, but all the city coming together to find a way to make this work, I think that you guys need to put more time into this before you make a decision tonight, because I think you're going to affect 32,000 and change home or people, over 11,000 homes. And in here, you might have 100 representatives. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. And we are not making a decision tonight. This is purely discussion, and just to feel it out here and figure out if there's a way to morph it or what do we want to do with this, our wonderful Christmas day, which I've been here almost 40 years, so I do understand. Lily.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lily. I am 17 years old, Laverne resident. Actually, I don't even know until I saw posts online, social media, people bring up like, what? I didn't bring my phone with me because I said, I should come here. This is very important for me, my family, and a lot of people I know. Since I live in Old Town, so since my kids born, it's just our family routine to wait for like 9 o'clock to check her, where's the fire truck? We're so excited, wait for that moment, and call out, jump outside and wait for the goodie, right? The goodie is not really important, whatever box or bag, it doesn't matter. That is the best time for all our neighbors, or maybe just see once a year. And then we say hi, and then we exchange a Christmas gift. It's already 17 years tradition on my street. So I know it's so important for so many other neighbors. I know that because there's a page called Old Town Story. So every year we post a picture, collect together. So for Christmas, what is the most important moment in the Christmas morning? And then I saw so many people post, they put chocolate on the road because for volunteer things. And then people take picture, and then it's a very sweet moment. And then last few years since the shortage, I know that because I've been volunteer too. So some people couldn't reach the corner, especially for some like mobile house. The child couldn't get inside, but just drive by. A lot of people complain online, talk about how disappointed they didn't get the goodie bag. It's not about goodie bag. It's because they missed the most exciting moment from their childhood. Because some people, they come back from other city, come back spend with parents, only because to recall their memory. So I wonder how is the value of this tradition? It's close to 100 years for Laverne. Because people will talk about, say, hey, where do you live? I come from, I say, I live in Laverne. They say, yeah, it's a very sweet, small town. It's a very special town. They have a fire department, their own fire department. You know how this fire department famous? Not because the lawsuit a few years ago. It's because the fire department every single Christmas morning. Laverne because famous. Because of Christmas morning, fire truck deliver Santa, deliver candy. That's what I know. My friends know about. You live in Laverne. That's small, special town, very good town. Still today, they still talk about that. For me, my understanding is the 4th of July. I always call my friends, join the parade, we're happy to have the barbecue. And Christmas morning, we don't call them come to my house, but it's the best time to meet all my neighbors every single year. So I know it's shorted because I'm so glad our mayor still continue. COVID still say hi. We're so happy. Oh, the continue still there, not stop because we're so worried. This tradition is gonna stop. But we saw continue, and the next year I sign up right away. I call my son, hey, we're gonna be volunteer because they talk about not enough people. So we joined the volunteer. It's not easy, 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I was so exhausted, but I'm just so happy. I could give the candy to the people. Lee, that's you. And then my son, oh, Joseph, that's you. And then we met so many people we know from many, many years ago. I know how important for my family and so many family like us. Because people don't even know it happened today. Because I saw online people like, what is that? What is that? People will be thinking, what the 100 years tradition? Gonna vote today or end today? You probably don't do that, okay? Especially if you need to survey, do a survey. Let people come to, do you willing to be volunteer for Christmas morning since we short of volunteer? You even could think about pay, part-time. For some people like my son, they would love to be part-time, okay? Get some pay, something, right? So please, think about how's the value of this tradition. Don't make any decision today, just do a survey. I would love to be volunteer for the Christmas morning or even to the Christmas community. I would love to do that. I'm going to do event. I did very big wedding for my sister. 1,000 people joined many, many years ago. 30 years ago, I think. Okay, so I just want to know, a lot of people not happy about the district voting, and especially CCW and, I don't know, affordable housing, people, more population come. So this tradition maybe will be a kind of challenge to continue. But put the challenge on the table. Let's find a solution. So I'm sure if this tradition is so important to every single living citizen who care about that.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Mr. Bowen?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I hate following Lily. You just can't compete.
Your time is up, thank you.
Number one, 40 years here, great tradition. I'm one of those people that first time went outside and thought the whole world was ending on Christmas morning. When my neighbor said, no, that's okay. Had 3 houses here, love the tradition. But logistics are always an issue. And I remember, I don't know if you remember, but 4 or 5 years ago, I even said, maybe it's a tradition that has had its time. Boy, did I take a beating over that one. So logistically, the one thing I'm curious, and I want to just follow up with Anna. Somebody put a lot of work in this. So how long have you guys been working on it? Unfortunately, on the tail end of the 740 project over there, we seem to find out after there's been a whole lot of work. And this is a study session, but quite frankly, it sounds like a done deal. I heard the fire department say he couldn't support it. I heard the staff say they can't support it. Kind of sounds like a done deal. And he got 4 months. And this is the first time, at least this is the first time I've ever heard of this. For or against it, not really one way or the other right at the moment, but it is a very short time frame, and you want input. I think other than this meeting, you need more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Good evening, my name is Carla Mora, and I just want to say that my husband Tony has volunteered to be Santa for the last 23 years. It's been a tradition for the kids. That's what I thought it was all about. We volunteered our time, and my husband hasn't spent Christmas morning with our family for the last 23 years. And you know what? My kids were very understanding. As little ones, as 3 and 7 years old at the time, I told them Santa needed helpers, and that was it. From that day on, my husband looked forward to that every morning. Every morning. That was something that him and I looked forward to, going buying toys ourselves to give out to all these kids in the morning. I mean, I can't believe this is happening, or this is even a question. It's very sad because I truly thought all these years this is for the kids. And I was okay with it. I know there's a lot of people that may not be okay with it, but it's just, I just find it sad that if this is taken away, oh my God, that's heartbreaking, because it's just heartbreaking. I can't believe it's happening. Circumstances have changed in our lives right now. If my husband could do it again this year, and if it's allowed, I hope he can. But this is something that I really think that you guys really need to think about, because it's going to break a lot of people's hearts. And I think the suggestions of talking to people first, and maybe you'll have people that will really volunteer and commit and be here that morning to help, I think that'd be great. It's just, I just find it sad that this is even a topic. It's unbelievable, because people look forward to this every year, and I'm so proud to say Laverne does this every year, and look at how many people are here saying this is what they look forward to with their families. Never have had a problem my husband being gone, because I know he's doing it for the kids and he loves it. That's the bottom line. If your heart's in it and you love it, you'll do it. Bottom line. That's how I feel. So I really think that you would be breaking a lot of people's hearts if you take this away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Ms. Carney.
I'm Arlene Carney. I'm
I live at 1632 Kent Drive. I've lived here for probably 23 years. I remember the first time I thought something drastic was happening. It's a lovely tradition. I've had my grandkids over some years and they love it. A couple of suggestions. The communication process, you're going to have to really expand it. It's been brought up. But I know what you went through with the districts. I know what we went through with a lot of different issues. People are suddenly confronted with a change or something new, and you can't do that. You have to make sure that everyone in this city knows that this is being proposed, and you need to get their input. I haven't volunteered. I did call once to ask if I could, and all I wanted to know, because I'm not a youngster, is if I could do it for a few hours, and I was told no, that I had to go the whole route. So there's maybe some alternatives you could do in terms of shifts, so people can do 2-hour shifts and somebody takes over on, some street. So there's different ways you can maybe do the whole event and involve more people. But I'm willing to volunteer, and I haven't done that in the past. And I think you could really bring this whole community together, and if we put a call out to get more people to volunteer, because if they don't, we're probably not going to have this event. So much has happened because of COVID. I've seen so many kids be disappointed by so many things. I've seen adults suffer through depression. I mean, there's been just a lot of things that have gone on in the last few years that have impacted so many people's lives. Maybe this isn't the right time to do this. Maybe this is maybe you can, over the years, you may have to stop doing this, but so close to all the trauma and all the changes and all the stuff we've all had to go through. Maybe this is the time to bring the whole community together, to volunteer to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Allison.
Dr. Allison.
There's a doctor.
First of all, I want to start by recognizing the sacrifice of staff and to say thank you to the staff who've given up their time these decades to make such a wonderful program happen. I'm also very grateful and honored to hear not only a no, this can't happen, but actual alternatives. And I heard Chief Nick say that he wouldn't ask his people to work, and I think that that's leadership. So I'm grateful for the staff in this city for not only this event, but other events. I just want to say that I support staff's recommendation. I think, one, if we're concerned about getting the most people in Laverne together for a celebration, dividing the cities into 5 as opposed to all of the separate neighborhoods that people are talking about, probably gets more people celebrating the holiday together. Secondly, there's nothing about this plan that prohibits a neighborhood from having their own celebration. So, you can meet out in the street and exchange gifts and goodies and loves and hugs. There's nothing that stops that by adopting this model. But what I'm sensitive to is I think Laverne children are important. And as was indicated, this is a program for our children. But I don't think Laverne's children are more important or special than anybody else's. And so to understand that people are sacrificing their time and are working so hard to make this tradition happen, but it's happening on the backs of people who are sacrificing precious time with their own children, I find that disturbing. So I would support the staff's recommendation that we break this up into other programs. I think the wisdom in having different programs isn't that we want to divide everybody up, but it's if you can't make one, you can make the second one, maybe the third, the fourth, or if you're like me, I'll be at all of them because that's how my kids roll. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Allison. Mr. Bernardo.
Mayor, council. Well, I'm one of your firefighters. I've heard Arden grow up here a lot. One thing that I like to say is that when I joined the fire department here, it wasn't because of Christmas, not to sound negative, but that is part of the job. I understand part of the city are what we do. I started in 1990 as a reserve, and I've been here since, and pretty much half my time here I've given to Christmas. Every year I can tell you from the inside and from inside that it's become a challenge every year. It has nothing to do with money. We were offered to be paid to come in on Christmas, so money isn't an issue for coming in and doing it. I think the biggest thing on our side was we just didn't have the people anymore to do it, our numbers and safety. I'm gonna give you my experience. Last Christmas I was on duty. I took my crew, they said they wanted to go out. We went on a route and helped out Sandra's towing. We had Santa on our route, everything. I can't thank the volunteers enough, what they do for that morning and helping out. I probably had 13 people on our route. I had 4 people that were running. The rest of the kids laid out on back of the tow truck with their cell phones the entire route. It's hard, it's not safe. We had a couple incidents where the cars, where they cut across the street. So a lot of that comes into play. We're all afraid of change, I understand that. This is a tradition. I was going to bring 2 Polaroid pictures of me from 1980, getting Santa, getting candy from Santa. Our department will give anything we can any day to do something for the city. I think we've shown that. Do I think it should go away? My personal opinion, no. But I do think that there's some potential solutions out there. As council members, you make committees for goal lines and taxes, to hear from citizens to help out. I think there's a window where you should listen to some citizens. More brains are better, more brains are better than one brain to potentially make a solution. But for the citizens, I want you to know from your firefighters, we give every day, and to have Christmas go away, please don't be upset at us. And we would love to do it if we could. We physically cannot do it anymore with the bodies. If you had every one of our members here from the department that morning, we still couldn't accomplish it. So I'm sorry for that portion of it. It just has changed. But I do think that there's more members. I know people I've talked to that aren't here tonight that have some potential solutions. I would like to see the council potentially, hey, we have X amount of time, I want to hear from you. And if you don't hear from it, that's it, you had your opportunity. I can appreciate that, like some said. But your firefighters will do anything for you, for the city. And I think we've proven that already, so thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Mr. Bonanno. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hi everybody, I'm Cynthia Tyner. Besides the beautiful aesthetics of this city, Santa Claus coming and visiting on Christmas morning was actually my #1 reason for moving here. A personal experience, it brings out the child in everybody. And as adults, it's good to slip into that every now and then. A friend of mine had told me about Santa Claus coming around. Well, eventually, I got to move here. And Christmas, I completely forgot about the tradition. Christmas morning, I hear the sirens. And I start praying, thinking, Lord, help whoever needs those services. And in my prayer, as I'm praying, all of a sudden I realized, Santa's here! Santa's here! I jump out of bed in my little nightie, I'm running down my hallway, I'm grabbing my girls, Santa's here, we gotta go see Santa. And then I realized, get a hold of yourself, girl. But yeah, it's just a wonderful tradition, and we don't hang on to, and we let too many traditions go in life, and I just think that that's one of them that we really need to try to hang on to. However, maybe we have to tweak it. Now, as far as volunteering goes, I've wanted to do that for the longest time. When I was raising my girls, all I thought I could do was fill the little goodie bags. But now, the way our family celebrates is every other year, my sister and I exchange
homes that we celebrate. So I can assist on Christmas Day every other year. I never knew where to go to volunteer. I never knew. Did come to the city one time and they said, we'll get back to you, and no one ever got back to me. So if the word could be put out for people to volunteer, maybe you could get more and they could volunteer for shorter periods of time so that everybody could be with their family. And I am sorry, but I am eternally grateful to our fire department and all the volunteers for all the years that they've given us this tradition. Anyway, that's my little tiny suggestion, but thank you all, thank you firefighters for a great tradition.
Thank you, Ms. Kleiner.
That's exactly the way.
And Mr. Mayor, we did change our process to try to get rid of some of the feedback.
No,
So
let's
hopefully
try it.
this will
No,
work.
I don't believe it.
Drop your microphone.
Good evening. Everyone hear me? Yes, perfect. So, unlike most of the folks that have spoken, I have not lived in the city very long, it's been a couple of years. And I didn't know about the Santa tradition prior to buying a house here. But it was a wonderful surprise on Christmas morning. I have a young daughter and another one on the way, and it was a great and joyous experience that later on when I went with my family, I bragged about the new city I moved to and how they had Santa on Christmas Day to every single block in the city. It was spectacular. Got a little picture of that event from Christmas morning, my first Christmas here in Laverne. And so, love it. It's a charming tradition. That being said, logistically, I had no idea how on earth it happened, right? The city is 32,000 or so. It's, hills, it's everyone running through the city, and I just could not ask city staff or the fire department or anyone to give up their time on Christmas Day when I would be willing to give up my time with my family on Christmas Day. I think it's great that we're doing a study session on this. I think a couple other community outreach or forums or listening sessions to try to come up with ideas would be great, because this is something that I know everyone loves, and it's a very, it's a tradition that people love and would be very upset to lose. That being said, from what I've heard from staff and the people that are actually doing the volunteering and spending hours and hours of their day, I don't know if it's sustainable or not. I have heard from a lot of folks tonight that say, hey, if we knew this was a problem, we'd jump in and help out. And I think that probably is true. And so I think there's an opportunity to find out if maybe this comes out of city control and there is some kind of community organization that tries to get together to organize and generate the volunteer base, and they take it on. But asking city staff or fire department who are, already stretched thin to be giving up Christmas Day, I think is really tough. I don't know how long the Winter Wonderland event has been going on in Laverne, but that's a great event, and it's another opportunity for kids to meet Santa. I live very close to Heritage Park, so I hit all those events. Winter Wonderland, the Pumpkin Patch, the excellent Easter egg hunt. We do it all with my daughter. And so I think there are other opportunities. I know there's the tree lighting for kids to see Santa without having to give up, without having so many have to give up Christmas Day. Now, if there's a groundswell of support from the community to keep this, of volunteers from the community, great. I would love to keep it going. It brought a smile to my entire family. But if there's not, if we don't have the volunteer base to do it, I really do think change is inevitable. And I don't think asking city staff to take on more and more of the load on Christmas Day away from their families just to keep this tradition going when the city has grown so much is a good idea. So I applaud the city for having this as a study session as opposed to a regularly agendized proposal. I think that's a really good idea to have this conversation before a vote takes place. I think more engagement is great. but I'd like to see if there is enough support from the community to get the volunteers and the real commitment and not have it be such a responsibility on the fire department or on city staff. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. We are cresting upon our other meeting, but would anyone else like a last comment before I close public comment? Then I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Mr. Domer, I think it's been very, very clear. I just want to make it clear too that I know Anna had brought it up regarding, this was brought to us by staff. You know, I've been involved with this for a number of years. I think this is my 8th year now. And we don't realize what our staff has to go through in order to make these things happen. So if you're asking the question, it was staff saying, this is really difficult for us. And I think this is why we're outpouring to the community saying, if we want to keep this, and we want to keep it in the way that we have to, it's going to take people to do this. It's going to take licensed people to run trucks. It's going to take licensed people, our Santas and things like that. And as Mr. Bowen said, yeah, it's 4 months. But we got this just a short bit ago. It was designed by staff, and I really thank the staff for what they've done. But we're just bringing it up to them saying, this is an issue. It's a big issue. The volunteerism is not there. I'll just be honest with you. I've been on the route a number of times, and it just fails. But it sounds like a lot of people just want to run around in their 90s, Anna. I mean, that's fine. Sorry?
No, Cynthia's 90, Anna's pajamas.
Throwing it out there. Break the crowd up every once in a while. No, I think this is serious. I mean, and my wife made it very, very, very clear to me.
Not on your watch?
Not on my watch. But we have to listen to our staff. We have to listen to our community. If we like this, then let's get together and make it happen. But it's going to have to be community-based now. We need to have volunteers. Maybe we do it without the candy. Maybe we just don't do candy. We do a route with Santa Claus on a truck and go down every street. And I know, Pam, you love the candy, but the point is that maybe that's too much with the volunteers. Maybe reduce it down. We can able to hit the streets where these people aren't out 6 to 8 hours. And we rely less on staff, although staff has to put this together. Everything we do through the city goes through staff. It has to do with insurance, it has to do with certification. So we've heard, I think this is really good. It was brought to us to say, hey, you think this was comfortable bringing it to everybody? Absolutely not. But the point is our staff's crying out to us, and we value our staff. Without our staff, the city does not function. And they do a really good job. Between fire, police, between our community services, between our community development departments, our public works, we have fantastic departments here. But the point is that if the residents want this, we need to step up and step up now because we don't have a lot of time. So that would be my suggestion. And Mr. Domer, can we have another session? I mean, some of us won't be here, but we need another session on this, and we need to maybe, let's get more information, more outreach. And then, but also, if you're gonna come to us, let's have some sound discussion and solutions, because I love this just like you guys do. You know, my grandkids are doing this now. It's great, it is, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of planning. It takes people to be there, so. Councilmember Johnson, go ahead.
I was on the council many years ago, 2003 to 2011. And it was actually an issue at that time. I've been on the Rotary Club since 1984. And the city manager at that time was asking if Rotary would be able to take over the Christmas morning. And there was just no way that we could do it as a club. So when you ask, has this been an issue? It's been an issue for a very long time. But the sustainability factor is what's bringing it up now. One of my fond memories about the Christmas morning was firemen had a lot of Jeeps back then when I was a kid. And they had plywood sides on those, attached to those Jeeps like sleighs.
Mr. Russell.
Yeah, somebody got to wear their out on Christmas morning, yes.
Yes, I did. That's clutch. Thank you so much.
Well, I think they're automatic now, aren't they?
Yeah, his is not.
But, yeah, I mean, that could be something, if the Jeep clubs are still as popular as they used to be, maybe they're not, but, I mean, there could be groups within our community that would love to take on something like that, or at least be a part of it for their district or for their community, excuse me. But yeah, I was also told by my wife, not at my home.
So don't think we don't concern, this is not a concern to us. Your points are well taken. I have to go home at night, and I'll tell you what, yeah, she said absolutely not on my watch, but let's figure out how we can make it work. Mr. Crosby.
I just appreciate everyone's opinion about this. And again, jumping on and off that fire truck, I don't know how you men do that and women do that every day in your work. The volunteerism, in 2019, before I was on council, there was a big push to get volunteers to do this, because that's when, not that the fire did not want to do this, they couldn't sustain that, and it went to a city thing. And the cry out was for volunteers back in 2019. And it has not sustained itself to volunteer. There are not many people that volunteer this they do it 1 year and then they don't do it the next. They've learned after that first year that how difficult it really is. And that's concerning. Trying to get the people to do it, and the piece on saying that they had 13 kids and 4 were running, that happens a lot. They get tired out. They don't know what they're volunteering for. And after hour 4.5, there's people dragging, and there's only a couple people doing it. And it's very difficult. It is the best thing out there by far. Just trying to make sure that is it sustainable or not. And by being on there since 2019, watching it and watching our volunteers come and go and trying to get people to come and do it, it's hard. Anna, if you say you want to volunteer, bless you.
20 years ago, I might be able to.
Or anyone else. It is difficult in trying to get them and getting them around. I've been filling up my Santa suit and trying to volunteer for that. But it is hard in trying to make sure that we sustain something for our community, and it's not easy to keep it. We did push. So the people that say that we did not push for volunteers, since 2019, it has been out there, and it's been on our website to volunteer to come out and be part of that. Since that's when I started getting involved and then started becoming city council, was when the push happened to try to be out there. And I am one of those people that say, I'm not going to ask someone else that I wouldn't do myself, and that is why I've been doing it since 2019. But my wife, they look at me, and whoever said that, Lily said that you were real exhausted afterwards. My first year running, I came home for Christmas, I went to sleep and took a nap and missed the rest of Christmas that day because I was so tired from doing that too. So true fact, when you get home, you're exhausted after doing that as well, and your family is trying to look at you and say, wait, you're done volunteering, now you're for us, but you're too tired to even be part of that. So it is difficult.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, so I would, I think from this, I think what we're hearing is that we've got a segment of the community that has spoken out, but I think to many people's comments, we want to make sure that we're hearing from other people, and we want to make sure that we're really thinking about potential other solutions if that's what needs to happen, and figuring that out together. I think, there's a lot of the same questions or things that people have brought up are things that I think individually we've brought up and asked staff about when they started bringing these concerns to us. Why don't we do shifts, right? Maybe it's more feasible if someone does a 3 to 4 hour shift and they only have to give up that amount of time. But coordinating that they tried that, I think, 1 year, and trying to coordinate that was not easy, because people then just didn't answer the call, or just failed to show up, so then you had people who were then staying through a second shift that didn't sign up for that second shift. So if there's a way that we can think about how do we keep people accountable, because the sad fact is, I think there are those of us that signed up for things and said, you know, hey, we signed up and we committed and we're gonna be here all day. And then there are the people who are like, I signed up and I was really into it at the time I signed up, but not anymore.
An hour later.
But they just kind of think someone else will take care of it, right? Somebody else will pick up the slack, and that's not always the case. And I think Director Duran had mentioned, I think one of the reasons we did get the number of volunteers this last time was because there was a private donor who donated to athletics at Bonita to say, if you will commit this many of your students or your student athletes, you know, I'll make this donation to the athletic program. And so that's the only reason I understand that those people stay. So if people can get creative and think about how do we get people to volunteer and actually stick around, then, you know, I think that's something we can explore. But I definitely think, Mr. Gomer, if we can look at another date for a different study session, my thought would be, you know, I know that we've set this 5:30 time aside, you know, do we look at something that allows for like maybe an online survey plus a study session? Do we think about doing a workshop on a different day at a different time to collect people? Because I do think that may broaden the impact and the feedback that we would get.
And a big shout out to Coach Beaumont and the girls softball team, because they were the volunteers.
They were there.
Yeah.
They were huge.
Mr. Mayor.
The certificate, right? Volunteer hours, honor for college. They will go, kids will go.
On the timing, yeah, we can do, and I would, you know, I think this issue, as we've already gone over, our hour allotted time would be a good special meeting on a different day.
I think so.
So we don't have something behind.
Yes.
Also, we wanted to make sure, Yvonne, when is the next recreation guide going out? That's one of the things we wanted to put information in there one way or the other.
The recreation guide is already out and out to print, so we'll put it on social media.
Okay.
Just to touch base on some of those questions, we have tried shifts. We've reached out to every school district, every private school, to school district parents. There's a lot of commitment, but a lot of people just don't show up. I will say that in 2021, there was a few COVID issues. There was no COVID issues last year, but it's been rather difficult. Community services was brought on in 2019 from the former city manager, asking us for just that year to help sustain it for that year. It's not very sustainable, so right now I don't have any volunteers to assist. I will say for Christmas morning, so I will put that out there. It's very hard. So.
And I think that's, we want to see something, and that's one of the issues that's, you've heard this has been since 1984, or other things that's been kind of stuttering and all that stuff, especially in the last several years. And the worst thing would have been to go forward this year and have it just absolutely, utterly collapse, and not be able, because right now we're at 6 or 7 routes, you know, even getting 4, what does that do to everything? So we are open for suggestions, so what I'll do is I'll go back to staff real quick, get some thoughts, set up a special meeting when all the council members are here, we'll get that out. And again, advertising, sometimes it's difficult because we put things out on social media, we put it on the web, we try to do our best, but we're always gonna miss folks. So we do, you know, appreciate when people repost or get it out onto theirs. We do have, you know, on Nextdoor and Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever it's called. I think we're getting a Threads account because somebody says that's a good thing. So we do try our best, but we need the public's help on that too. So.
Well, I know school's starting the next week, but the point is that if we want to sustain this, it has to be us. It can't be our staff anymore. They're gonna have to help facilitate and make sure that it's done correctly. That's gonna be us. If we wanna do this, let's do it. But we need input, we need volunteers. As Director Duran said, it was bad last year. It was just a lucky win, but at the end of the day, we want this tradition to continue, which we do. How we do it and how we make it happen, it's up to us. So we're reaching out. And I know people are busy, but at the end of the day, look at your social media. Let's pay attention to this stuff. we're gonna get it out. We'll blow it out completely to any social media we possibly can. But at the end of the day, you know people, let's get it talking right now, because we're gonna make this happen. December 25th, as Mr. Bowen said, it's around the corner. It's gonna be here before we know it. And we wanna make it fun for our children and our children's children. Let's do it. But we need to have input from all of you. So it's really important. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put that out. And let's continue this quickly, actually. So, with that, we're adjourned. This meeting adjourned at 6:55. I'm gonna start the meeting in 5 minutes. So the meeting will start at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.